Since record-keeping began in 1922, at least 322 people have died attempting to climb Mount Everest. Because of the extreme logistics required for retrieval, more than 300 of those bodies remain permanently frozen on the mountain today. A common assumption is that the majority of these climbers fall from the absolute peak. The reality is that the highest concentration of fatalities occurs long before the summit, inside the long, grueling gauntlet required to reach it. Ascending this mountain requires fighting a war on two fronts. Climbers must navigate an actively collapsing geographical environment, while simultaneously managing the systematic biological failure of their own bodies. Everest pushes human endurance to its absolute biological limit. Surviving the ascent means conquering a landscape that is physically and chemically hostile to human life. The climb begins at base camp, sitting at an elevation of 5,486 meters. This temporary city serves as the final staging ground and the gateway to the mountain's first lethal obstacle, the Khumbu Icefall. The Khumbu Glacier is a massive river of ice that grinds down the mountain's flank at a rate of 3 to 4 feet every day. This relentless kinetic motion creates immediate mechanical hazards. The crushing pressure forces the ice to fracture into bottomless crevasses and pushes up towering, unstable blocks of ice, known as seracs, which weigh thousands of tons and can collapse without warning. The sheer lethality of the icefall is well documented. Sudden serac collapses and avalanches here wiped out entire teams of experienced Sherpas and guides in 1970 and again in 2014. Navigating this section relies heavily on luck. Prudent climbers cross the icefall in the dark, hours before sunrise, hoping to clear the maze before the morning sun warms the ice and causes the fragile structures to break apart. Once climbers survive the mechanical hazards of the glacier and ascend past 5,500 meters, the primary threat shifts from external falling ice to an invisible internal breakdown. This diagram compares a human lung at sea level to one at 5,500 meters. Oxygen remains constant at 20.9%, but atmospheric pressure drops significantly. With every breath taken at base camp, the lungs receive only half the oxygen molecules they would at sea level. The body deploys desperate physiological countermeasures to survive the deficit. It manufactures excess red blood cells, spikes the resting heart rate, and entirely suppresses the digestive system to conserve energy for the cardiopulmonary system. Ascending too quickly without giving the body several days or weeks to acclimatize leads to severe altitude sickness. Blood vessels begin to leak, causing the lungs to fill with fluid, known as high-altitude pulmonary edema, or causing the brain to swell dangerously against the skull. General physical fitness offers no immunity to these conditions. Above base camp, the low-pressure environment forces the human body to systematically cannibalize its own non-essential functions simply to stay conscious. At 8,000 meters, climbers reach Camp 4 and cross a biological threshold known as the death zone. At this altitude, human acclimatization is entirely impossible. The mathematics of survival here are absolute. The body's cells die and consume oxygen stores much faster than supplemental breathing apparatuses can replace them. Entering the death zone starts a strict countdown clock to systemic organ failure. Sudden storms in this hypoxic state are incredibly lethal. During the 1996 disaster, an unexpected blizzard trapped several climbers on their descent. Deprived of oxygen and exhausted, climbers like Taewong Paljor, often identified by his bright green boots, became hopelessly disoriented and froze on the mountain. Recovering these victims is a brutal, often impossible logistical challenge. A frozen body can weigh over 300 pounds. Attempting to drag that dead weight down steep, icy terrain requires an output of energy and oxygen that living rescuers do not possess. Past 8,000 meters, modern safety nets disappear. Falling climbers are permanently entombed exactly where they collapsed, serving as a geographic warning to the teams that step over them. Commercialization has allowed inexperienced tourists to purchase spots on Everest expeditions. This creates deadly human traffic jams, forcing climbers to wait in line while their limited oxygen supplies drain away. To counter this, the Nepal government enacted a strict policy shift taking effect in spring 2026. Every applicant for an Everest permit must now provide government-verified proof that they have successfully summited at least one mountain in Nepal higher than 7,000 meters. The rationale is highly practical. Climbing a 7,000-meter peak like Tilicho or Baronsay forces applicants to experience severe hypoxia, navigate complex glacier mechanics, and operate in extreme cold before they are allowed anywhere near the death zone. While restricting permits will inevitably reduce commercial revenue and climbing traffic, it acts as a necessary triage. It stops novices from treating a highly lethal environment like a guided tour. Mount Everest remains a grueling test of human endurance. By mandating prior high-altitude experience, climbers must respect the biological limits of the human body before stepping into a zone designed to kill them.